So, welcome to Poetry Sunday, everyone. So, we're going to be continuing today with reading the Psalms. We're going to start with Psalm 19, and we may or may not get past Psalm 19. I mean, Psalm 19 is pretty stupendous. Uh, after Psalm 19, we may never need to read anything else again. I'll put it that way. Um, I want, as a little preface, I want to show you a couple of photos taken by one of my very dearest friends. Okay, share screen.
Excuse me.
Okay, you all seeing this beautiful photo?
Yes.
Okay. Um, so these photos are taken by one of my oldest and dearest friends, Dan Jackson. Um, Dan and I were teaching assistants together at Maharishi International University going back to 1973. Um, he later, a few years later, went traveling through India on his own, looking for his guru, looking for his spiritual teacher, looking to make his spiritual connection in India. And he found it in the synagogue in Cochin, India, and discovered he had to go all the way to India to discover, wait, I'm Jewish. That's really my path. He wound up in becoming a rabbi, living in Israel. Um, uh, did that. That was his life for several years. Then he had a whole, wound up in the whole, and he had a family, all that. Then wound up in a whole other life, living in a little village in France as a teaching photography. He's an amazing scholar who, off the top of his head, will give you all the history, all the linguistics, all the everything. Okay, so here's the commentary on these photos. Um, and he, by the way, Dan often watches these videos, but because he's living in Morocco now, the time zone is such that it's hard for him to participate with us live. So hi, Danny. Um, Thank you for these beautiful photos. And here's the commentary. Um, so these images demonstrate the fundamental concepts from the science of creation writ large. Um, this first one is a photo of the galactic center covered by the galactic clouds, the marvelous parable of creation. So, as you probably know, we live in a galaxy that we call the Milky Way, and we're out about halfway or something toward the rim, and it's shaped like a big pizza. So this is looking toward the center of the pizza. This
Which
this
picture?
this
I, I
big
have
one in the middle.
three. Oh,
This
okay.
big one in the middle. So this is um, and Danny and I, we had a long Zoom together the other night, and he pointed out to me that in the days when the Psalms were written and the other ancient scriptures were written, the skies were much clearer. We didn't have all this air pollution. We didn't have all this light pollution. You could look up in the sky and you'd see stuff like this. You know, now in order for him to get a photo like that, he has to go out in the desert and take a time exposure of several hours. Okay. But in those days, people looked up and they saw that. So it was pretty easy to look up and be in awe of the whole cosmic process, the whole creation. Now, are you seeing the other one large now?
Yes.
Okay, good. So what does he say here? The second photo, which he calls still point, is a 46-minute exposure of the celestial North Pole. Okay, so right here in the middle, you know that is what we call the North Star, or Polaris. It's the star that just so happens the axis of the Earth is points toward it, so that as the Earth rotates, as the Earth revolves, and the stars appear to be moving, this is the one star that appears not to move, or to move just in a very tiny circle, and everything else moves around it. So what you're seeing here are the tracks of the stars over a 46-minute period, and down here at the bottom is the horizon, and you can see the sun. The sun must have been coming up at the end there. And he said both of these photos were taken in the Negev at a watering site on the spice road from Egypt to Basra and to India beyond. The site is a series of wells that were dug somewhere during the First Temple period and is one of the few dark sky sites in Israel. Okay. So if some of you may be aware of what are called dark sky sites, these are like preserves, places you can go to see the sky without a lot of light pollution, and to really see the stars in their glory. And he says, coupled with Psalm 19, it is not hard to see how the ancients, who looked to the skies to keep time, came to understand that in the midst of the constant cycle of generation and corruption, there is a point that does not move, from the large to the small. Okay? So that's our background. Let's look now at Psalm 19. And once again, we'll have two versions in front of us just for fun. So you're seeing this on the screen now, Psalm 19, King James Version. Okay,
Yeah.
good, good. And then if you got the book here on page 6, we've got Psalm 19, the Stephen Mitchell version. But let's start with King James and see how we do, because the language, again, this is language from literally from the time of Shakespeare, written. Oh, and if you're ever interested in, okay, who the heck wrote the King James version? It wasn't King James. Although he was somewhat of a scholar, King James, for fun, what he loved to do was sit down with young boys and tutor them in Latin. He did that for entertainment. He was a pretty scholarly king, but he assembled a committee of scholars, clergy, linguists, and said, okay, we need an updated Bible translation. And he set them to work doing it. And the story of who those people were and what they were dealing with and what was going on, the church politics and the politics going on in England at the time, is really fascinating. And there's a book about it called God's Secretaries. And it's so fascinating. I have to reread this book once every couple of years. It's just so amazing. God's Secretaries. So, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Firmament, if you're not familiar with that word, it means sky. Doesn't sound like sky, but that's what it means. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them he hath set a tabernacle for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit unto the ends of it, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. You understand, we're still talking about the sun here, right? And there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The statutes of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold, yea, than much fine gold, sweeter also than honey and the honeycomb. Moreover, by them is thy servant warned, and in keeping of them there is great reward. Who can understand his errors? Cleanse thou me from secret faults. Keep back thy servant also from presumptuous sins. Let them not have dominion over me. Then shall I be upright, and I shall be innocent from the great transgression. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Okay. Some of this some of these phrases, even if you've never sat down and read the Psalms, you know some of this is like, wait, that's familiar. I've heard that somewhere, right? It's just kind of in the DNA of our civilization somehow. Anything off the tops of your heads, just hearing it one time and looking at it one time through here in the King James Version, anything in particular grabbing your attention, like that's particularly beautiful or that's particularly baffling? Anything, anyone?
What calls my attention is the tabernacle for the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful metaphor.
Yeah, where is that?
Um,
It's right.
Oh, yeah, verse 4.
yes. And them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun.
Right. In them. So what is them? Them is the heavens. I guess the heavens. Yes. So this is all looking up, and again, this is why having those two photos from Dan are so helpful. This is the heavens that King David or whoever wrote this. This is the heavens they were looking up into, that they were being inspired by.
Dean,
Yes.
I don't understand number 5. Could you explain a little bit of that?
Mm-hmm.
Which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, of what chamber, and rejoice.
Right. Okay. So this is all still referring to the sun. Okay. So that so actually let's go and Tova, you're there and you've got the literal translation, the Hebrew and the literal translation. Is that yes? Good. And by the way, Tova, my dear friend Danny mentioned you in particular. He said, "Boy, it's really great you've got Tova there helping you out with the translation." And he said, I really loved everything that Tova said, and she adds so much to the sessions. So
And now you have me too.
and we have right.
Sorry, I missed last week.
Yes.
Anyway, who wrote it? King Solomon.
King Solomon. Okay. Yes, I think about a third or a half of the Psalms are attributed to David, and others to other people.
The Messiah. Yeah, but he didn't write it, right? King
Okay.
David is the Messiah in the Jewish traditions. Okay. It's in Hebrew.
Odin, can
In
I
Hebrew translation, it's called Song of Songs. Okay, sorry.
This is the Psalms, not the Song of Songs, not the song. Right. Okay. Yes, Tova.
I just want to share that I was my army service was in the Negev, and I was a guide in the Negev,
Oh my
taking
God.
people. And we always walked with the Bible in hand because everything there is biblical. But in terms of the description of the night and day, I just want to share that the sky there is absolutely clear at night, and the only place where I've seen so many stars, the place that your friend told you is a place that once a year Israelis come with their telescopes and they see stars falling. A lot of stars, like a rain. So
Right.
his picture is a correct picture.
Yeah.
And we would see the stars at night, and then I would take people through the valley of Sin and up the mountain. And when we came to the edge of the mountain, we looked, and from all the bed rivers, the dry bed rivers, were like streams of like white cloud, all gathering together into one big river of white clouds, all going to east and ending in the sun, just like the sun behind me. All of it, look at the light, all of it kind of flowing into the sun.
Wow.
So when you are there and you see these sights, there is nothing else but you and God. I remember walking. I used to walk with my eyes closed because I'm not a morning person, but I knew my way. And then we would come up to the top, and I would just be silent for like 30, 40 minutes. And I didn't know about meditation then, but everybody was meditating.
Right. That's right. That's right.
So you asked me to read
Let me just say, it's, for those of us who don't have magnificent heavens like that to look up into, we have to take remedial measures like sitting down on cushions and meditating.
Yeah. You asked me something about the translation. Did you want me to read the other translation?
Yeah, let's look at the verse 4. What's that second line in and going into verse 5? In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. Now, what Stephen Mitchell has there is, in them is a path for the son who steps forth handsome as a bridegroom and rejoices like an athlete as he runs. So pretty close. Pretty close. So the sense that I'm getting here is just the vigor, just kind of creation brimming over. A bridegroom or an athlete is a young man in his prime. Just his strength, his potency is just at its maximum, and that the sun is like that, just brimming over with life, and as it runs its course every day, something like that. This is my sense of it. What do you have there, Tova?
You want me to verse 4 or the whole thing?
Yeah, just verse 4 for now.
I'm not sure it's the best translation, but it says, there is no speech and there are no words. Their sound is not heard.
Okay, that's what's listed here as verse 3. So maybe the numbering is different. So what do you have in the next verse?
Their precision goes forth throughout the earth, and their words reach the end of the inhabited world. In their midst, he has set up a tent for the sun.
A tent.
Yes.
A tent.
That's-
Interesting. Uh-huh.
Which is like a groom emerging from his bridal chamber. It rejoices like a powerful warrior to run the course.
Uh-huh. Okay. So pretty close.
I
Pretty
have
close.
an interesting translation also.
Yes, Judy.
I would like to hear it.
Yes, please.
The sky tells the glory of God, tells the genius of God's work. Day carries the news to day. Night brings the message to night. Without a word, without a sound, without a voice being heard, yet their message fills the world. Their news reaches its rim. Their God pitches a tent for the sun to rest and rise renewed, like a bridegroom rising from bed, an athlete eager to run the race. It springs forth the edge of the earth, runs the course across the sky to win the race at heaven's end. Nothing on earth escapes its heat. And it goes
Wow.
on. It goes on.
I like that. What translation is that?
It's our bravery.
Uh-huh.
It's from our bravery.
Uh-huh.
Sisters of St. Joseph worked on putting it together.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow,
So,
that's great.
and all of the Psalms, I mean, it's a new book that
Right.
is just for us, but
Uh-huh.
I'd like to
Yeah.
share it.
Yeah, no, thank you. That I mean that has helped my understanding of this, and it's the trade-off with King James is that the language is beautiful, it's Shakespearean,
Yeah,
but
it is.
some of it is outdated for our ears, and also the scholarship, and there's been 400 more years of biblical scholarship since then, and some of the words and phrases are better understood now than they were at that time. But this is lovely that the news, the information. This is like what's translated there as the news that helped me understand. It's like the information. It's like this is describing the RNA. There's the DNA of like God's or being the innate intelligence of beingness, the innate intelligence of God. But in order for it to manifest as an entire universe with galaxies and planets and animals and people and everything, the information has to be disseminated and manifested. So for that, the DNA has to use the messenger RNA, to get the word out. And that's this silent speech. There's no speech, there's no language, and yet the news is delivered. Something like that.
Fills the world.
It fills the world. It
with
fills the
news
world.
reaches its rim.
Yeah.
Was that, I'm sorry, that was beautiful. I wrote that down too. Was it this news reaches Earth's rim or just the rim? Our rim.
Reaches its rim.
Its rim. Thank you.
Judy, could you keep going with this, please? I want to see where they go with this.
All right, from the rim or from where I left off?
From where you left off.
Nothing on earth escapes its heat. God's perfect law revives the soul. God's stable rule guides the simple. God's just demands delight the heart. God's clear commands sharpen vision. God's faultless decrees stand forever. God's right judgments keep their truth. And that's as far as I have.
Okay. Okay. Actually, right there in what's showing here as verse 9,
Yeah.
where King James has the fear of the Lord, what did you read there?
See, I don't have verses on in our
Okay.
prayer book.
But it's the last verse that you read.
The last verse. God's faultless decrees stand forever. God's right judgments keep their truth.
Okay. So faultless decree. And what King James has is the fear of the Lord, which is very different. Tova, what's there in the original?
Well, this is also a translation. Oh, you mean from the Hebrew?
Yeah, what's the Hebrew there?
Um, okay. The Torah Adonai is the Torah of God, meaning the teachings
Right.
of God, is on the one hand is innocent, on the, another way to say it is complete, is flawless, it's reviving the soul.
Mm-hmm.
The God's manifestation is truthful and wises the unwise. It causes the unwise to become wise.
Okay. Okay. So let's pause there because it's very interesting to me that we're not hearing anything there that sounds like it could be translated as fear.
No.
And this phrase,
The opposite. The next line says, Pikudei Adonai. Oh, there is the word fear of Hashem is pure, but it's not fear, it's the Torah, it's the teachings. But yeah, it's perfect, restoring the soul. The testimony of God is trustworthy, making the simple one wise.
right?
The orders of God are upright, gladdening the heart.
Right.
The command of God is clear, enlightening the eyes.
Okay. So that's the command of God. And there's other places in the Torah that I know are translated, and I'm not really a scholar of this. I can't cite particular places right now where it says, where it's been translated back to the time of King James, fear of the Lord, where more modern translations will say the awe of the Lord.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was going, and that's the next line. The next line says, so one translation is the fear of God is pure, enduring forever. The judgments of God are true, altogether righteous. But the word fear, the Hebrew word yirat, it's from the root of to see. Ra'ah.
To see. Okay.
To see.
Right.
With your eyes, which means you see with awe. And it's not necessarily the fear of God.
Right. Okay. This is important. This is important. Western civilization, the history of how this stuff has come down. I don't know how much of it's come down that way in Judaism, where at least they've been reading the original language. But certainly in Christianity, how many times have you heard the phrase, "Oh yes, he's a good, honest, he's a God-fearing man." It's just, it pervades the language. And as far as I can see, it is a mistranslation. This idea that you stand, it's so interesting to me that the root of it comes from seeing. It's like you see something like, that display of the stars that is so mind-blowing.
And the line before that, where it says, wait, what does it say in English? But it says that they actually cause the heart to be happy. That's my translation. I'm just looking for.
Yes, rejoicing. Yeah, that's here in verse 8. Rejoicing the heart.
Upright, gladdening the heart. The command of God is clear, enlightening the eyes. And then he calls it the fear of God, but I think it's the awe of God is pure, enduring forever.
Yeah, the awe. I mean, that's very different. But you can see how that mistake might be made. But you can see also how there's a saying from some. There's this kind of cynical saying that, what is it? That something like, spirituality is experience, religion is crowd control. Right? I mean, that's from a very cynical point of view, but historically, there's a lot to that. Historically, there's a whole lot of alliances between, unholy alliances, and, can seem to us now, between kings and bishops, we'll make you the official church. You keep telling the people that God wants them to be docile, and that this is the way things are supposed to be set up. The king is supposed to be at the top. They're supposed to be poor. Don't worry about it. They're going to get their reward in the next life. And be afraid. Be very afraid. Because if you violate the way things have been laid out here, if you don't pay your tithes to the church, if you don't pay your loyalty to the church, if you don't pay your loyalty to the king, you're in big trouble. Fear of the Lord. Maybe it's not quite an accurate thing, but it serves our purpose. Leave it in. Okay. Yes, please.
I have something to add to this, what Tova said about Yirat Hashem, that comes from the word to see in Hebrew. So it's, again, and I have some explanation here, that, and it's this word Yirat Hashem, the Yirah of God, comes in different psalms. For example, also in Psalm 111, and it really means the reverence for God is the beginning of wisdom, wisdom, which means when the beginning of is about the knowledge, seeing, understanding wisely, or in our wisdom, it's not the fear of the heart. So it's more the wisdom, understanding maybe the existence of God. And it's really not about, if I sin, then I'm going to fear God. It's really acknowledging. So it's a little bit in a different way that maybe the church took it in, that in Judaism that means really to fear, to see and understand. It's about the wisdom that we comprehend about the existing of God.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
No, that's very
I have
helpful.
a whole page about
That's very helpful, and
Yeah.
that particular, and it's very interesting. The school where I taught for 33 years, the Pingree School in New Jersey, was founded in 1861 by the Reverend Dr. John F. Pingree. And upstairs in the library, there was a piece of wood with Dr. Pingree's motto. It was his favorite text from the Bible, and it was, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom." And all
that's
these
it.
generations,
So that's it.
all these generations of teenagers going up to the library to study algebra and flirt with each other and all that, and hanging over them was this dark brown piece of wood, "The fear of the Lord." And it's a mistranslation. It's a mistranslation.
Exactly.
It's,
So in Hebrew, it's more about seeing that, the
yes.
wisdom that comes. Yes.
And again, I
Yes.
go back to that magnificent display of the, of the stars,
Exactly.
over
In
the
the
Negev. You look over that, and you get some sense of how incredibly vast and beautiful and huge and incomprehensible and yet orderly is this creation. And you have to feel awe. You have to feel reverence. You have to feel you're if your mind doesn't get kind of blown by that, you're not paying attention. So I think all of it's a hard word to translate. It's we want to get all of that in one word: awe, fear, whoosh. That's how I would want to translate it. Whoosh. Right? That's the sound of my brains being blown. But it's
As much as I love the Negev, there are many other places in the world that you get this awe when
Yeah.
you're on top of some mountains. For example, in California, I remember we were in awe when we were in the top of Mount Whitney. You are so high in the sky, and the stars. It was freezing cold, but we kept our body in the little tent, but the heads outside the tent just to look at it, and fall asleep. And of course, we have the deserts in California, and you can see that as well. So yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing that is when you get to see this nature, it's in awe. You have this amazing feeling. Yes, that's
Right.
what it is.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Tuolumne Meadows is another place that the people take you out at night to see the stars.
Where is
And that
that?
was
Where's that, Judy?
Tuolumne Meadows, Yosemite.
Ah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Very-
fantastic. Of course, the trees are now growing up in the meadows, so
Mhm.
it's different. But in the old days when we used to go,
Right. Right.
yeah, we'd lay out on the rocks.
Right. And in the kind of the ultimate enlightenment that the Dharma teachings teach, you can see that anywhere. Even you don't have to necessarily see the stars. You can be looking down at the sidewalk. You look down at the sidewalk. You're walking on the sidewalk and you feel, wait a minute, what's stuck to the sole of my shoe? And you look and it's a piece of chewed up bubble gum that you stepped on, and you can look at that chewed on bubble gum and have the same awe, because all of the commandments of the Lord, all of the DNA of the universe, the glory, the radiance, it's there as well. It has to be if it's anywhere, it has to be everywhere. If it's now, most of us, our eyes are not open enough, our vision is not clear enough to be able to see it in a wad of chewing gum. It's much easier, it's much easier for us to. I'm getting feedback from something there. Let me try it. 1 2 1 2. There we go. Yeah. I'm getting it, Judy. I was getting it from you. I think it may be you had two things open or something. But anyway, if you need Don't worry about it. I've muted you for the moment. So, most of us, we need something where it's easy to see. But ultimately, at least in principle, we know it could be. We could see it anywhere.
Well, what comes to me, Dean, is that we all see the sun. We're looking at what we don't have. We don't have that direct, amazing view of the night sky, but everybody sees the sun. And right here in Santa Monica, we have these amazing sunsets. And
Yeah.
after reading this and all the conversation about it, I'm going to go out tomorrow and look at the sun, and it's not going to be the same. It's already
Good.
my
Yeah.
connection to the sun right now. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can be looking, and you can be looking in that big macro direction. You can be looking in the little micro direction. Let me see if I can quick open this up for you. I want to show you something that a little video, a few seconds long, that I shot just shortly before this session started in my backyard. We'll get it in a moment, hopefully.
As you get it,
Yes.
other place you can look is
Mm-hmm.
in your heart, not outside.
Amen, sister.
Love.
Right. Okay. All right. So I want to just show you a little something that I shot a little while ago. Okay. You're all seeing the tree here?
Mhm.
The little Buddha underneath. Okay, so this is in our backyard.
Uh-huh. Oh.
Two little baby hummingbirds. Look. Okay.
Wow.
Two little baby hummingbirds. Now notice, you see all the white stuff in the white fiber stuff in the nest. When we've been doing research on hummingbirds and hummingbird nests, it turns out that when the mama hummingbird builds the nest, she always finds some spongy stuff, either moss, or she finds some fiber like this that's flexible, so that as the babies get bigger, the nest can expand with them. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. She always lays exactly two eggs, not one, not three, always two. Right.
Uh-huh.
So, because that's the information. That's God's commandment to put it in those terms. That's the RNA that went out to these little guys. This particular species of hummingbird, which we get around here, which is called an Allen's hummingbird. And some of you may have noticed this. When the males do their courtship, they fly, and you'll hear them fly, and as they go zoom past you, their wings make the humming sound. Vrr, 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 vrr. And then they go way up in the air, and they go, woo, like this, straight down, and at the very end, it's like a letter J. They come up at the very end, and they come down from so high and so fast that it makes this high-pitched whining sound. Woo! Any of you seen that? Is this ringing a bell for you? Okay. These are the only birds that do this. Is the Allen's hummingbird, which is what these little babies are here. And so we get this incredible show going on in our backyard, right? And then, there's their little feather. Look at the way their little pin feathers are laid out. Brown ones are here, right where the brown ones go. Black ones are here, right where the black ones go. They gape their little mouths open. They when it's not feeding time, they stay very quiet. The mama knows to build this nest is right out in the open. It's at the very edge of our hedge of what are these trees called? They're a type of fig tree. They're all over Santa Monica. I'm blanking out. They're all over Santa Monica.
Ficus,
Say it again.
ficus, ficus.
Ficus. Yes. Thank you. Yes, the ficus trees. They're all over downtown Santa Monica. Half of the sidewalks are breaking up because of the roots of the ficus trees. And by the way, this is a relative of the Bodhi tree, the kind of fig tree that the Buddha sat under for his 49 days of awakening.
How high is that nest from the ground?
Well, you can see I'm holding my iPhone above the nest to photograph it. So it's not very high. It's about maybe 5 feet high.
Wow.
And it's out at the edge. But what they do is they build it out at the end of a very slim little twig because they're the smallest bird. Anything bigger, there's crows all over here. The crows can't land there because it's too small. So their smallness, their delicacy becomes their power. Their delicateness, their smallness becomes their power. This is all the grandeur of God. This is all his righteous laws. This is all the sun running its course, out of the tabernacle like a bridegroom. Yeah. And by the way, notice the ringing the nest, this black and white stuff is poop. They're smart enough to know, even as babies, oh no, poop on the outside, not on the inside. But looks like they're almost ready to start flying because they can't get much bigger and still sit there.
They sit on the edge like in India. The guys sit on the edge of the cliff.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well.
That's wonderful.
That's wonderful. Yep. Life is wonderful. So we're about out of time here. So that was a little bit of dipping into Psalm 19 in our very subjective, easygoing, non-expert, non-scholarly way. I think my drawback and my virtue as a teacher of this stuff is that I'm lazy, so I'm never going to become a real scholar. But also it's very helpful, I think, to my teaching of meditation because it's actually Rupert in the retreat today, this Rupert Spira retreat. Some of us are attending. He quoted, I forget who the quote was from, but it was great. He said that he talked about I've got it written down somewhere. Like for the real achiever of enlightenment, he's too lazy even to blink his eyes. He said he's so lazy even blinking his eyes is too much work. And I heard that. I said, yes, that's me. So okay, thank you everybody.
Oh, God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you so much for your help, Judy and Yehudit and Tova and everyone.
Happy to.
And we will
Love you all.
yes, and may
you.
all beings swiftly realize the awe of God, the awe of beingness. See ya.